The earth will cover only that which was mortal, the one, Leon, to whom we come to say our farewell. We shall not see again the familiar glowing face, the warm illuminated eye, nor hear the beloved voice. We shall not sit face to face across the family table, side by side in the home of a friend. We shall not feel the kiss that once evoked our deepest response. That death has failed and must surrender. For our beloved who is gone lives and will always live through the years, not in some distant corner of our being, to be uncovered only in a rare moment or by a sudden urge of recall. Leon has become a present, dwelling and inseparable, rooted so deep that life cannot carry us far, cherished in a hallowed center of memory and love. The hand of death has been stayed, no longer inflict oblivion or doomed to full disappearance. One who is the life of our life. Leon will live and move within us in spheres beyond the dominion of death. So we thank the God of life and love for the gift of memory, which endows each of us with the godlike sovereign power to give immortality to love. Blessed be you, O God, who enables your children to remember. Atzur Tamim Palok Yehol Rachav Mishpat Yalmuna V'yein Avel Sadik V'yasharhu Atzur Tamim B'chol Poal Mio Marlo Mat B'fal HaShalit B'mata U'B'mal Nemitu M'chayim Morid She'ol B'ya'al Atzur Tamim B'chol Ma'aseh Mio Marlo Mat Ta'aseh Omer B'yosef Chesed Kinom Lanu Ta'aseh B'zkut Ha'ne'ekad Kaseh HaKeshiva B'aseh Sadik B'chol Drachav Atzur Tamim Erech HaPayim U'malei Rachamim Amalna V'chusna Lavot Banim Kilacha Adon HaSlichot V'harachamim. Father, dust returns unto the earth as it was. But the Spirit returns unto God who gave it. So we have reached that solemn and sacred moment, parting from the visible presence of Leon, but it is only the house of his Spirit that we will be placing here in the earth. Here on earth, our dear ones continue loving remembrance of those who are precious. Dwelling in the shelter of the Most High and abiding in the shadow of the Almighty, I call God my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. Thus says God, because you desire me, I will deliver you and save you because of your love for me. When you call to me, I will answer you and be with you in time of trouble. I will strengthen you and honor you and satisfy you with ways and days and reveal to you my saving power. These moments of gathering together honor the memory and to pay tribute to the life of Leon Darling. Listen to these words that capture the feelings I'm sure that are with us. Death has cast a dark shadow over a family and has left all of us deeply bereft. The voice has been stilled, the heart has been stopped. Laughter has departed and joy has fled. Gone are the warmth and the glow of loved one's presence. The chain of love has lost a vital link. Death has taken a life which was precious. It has brought pain and loneliness and sorrow. Yet there is so much which death cannot touch, so much over which it has no dominion. Death cannot rob us of our past, the years, the dreams, the experiences we shared. Death cannot take from us the love we knew, for that is woven into the tapestry of our lives. The lessons we were taught, we shall continue to cherish and cling to the wisdom which lives on. What we have had, we shall always possess. What we have known, we shall always hold dear. Death cannot take from us our abiding trust that God will give us strength to endure what we must. Death cannot take from us our sustaining hope that darkness will yield to light, hurt will give way to healing. Death cannot take from us the comforting faith that with God every soul is precious and none is ever lost. Even in our sorrow, we thank God for our memories and our hopes, our trust and our faith. These need never be lost. So much more death cannot take from us. These moments return to the words of the ancient psalmist, words that throughout the century have brought us the message of God's nearness, of our kinship with God in light and in darkness, in joy and in sorrow. So if you have the booklets, if you turn to pages 6 and 7, the words of the 23rd Psalm. Renairo ilo echsarvin adesha yarbitseni, alneminu chotina chaleni, nafsi shabev yancheni v'magleid tzedek l'man shelo, gam ki elech b'geit salmavet, lo irara ki ata imadi, shivtecha mishantecha hema yenachamuni. Baruch Adonai shulchan neged sodorai shanta v'shevet roshi, kosiru bayah, Tova chesed v'rachoni kol b'nei chayai, v'shavti b'beit Adonai l'chorech yizah. Join with me on page 7. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. Guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. God, the hearts of your children who mourn are heavy with grief. We pray that they find comfort. Help them to remember the triumphs and the joy in Leon's life, to treasure what is theirs because he lived. To meet grief with courage, confront death with a new appreciation of life. When despair threatens and faith falters, sustain all of us, be our ever-present help. Everyone here would certainly have memories and words to share about Leon. We're going to hear some words from Tracy and then Jamie and Daniel and then Nancy. The others, you will have an opportunity on Sunday at the Dominion service at 2 o'clock on Zoom to share some of your own memories as well. So let me ask Tracy to begin.
Thanks for being with us today.
Take your mask off.
Take it off the mask. Okay. Stand back. So thank you for coming today. I know it's a little different right now. great man this past Saturday is an understatement. We lost an honest-to-goodness stand-up man with a peculiar yet comical, dry sense of humor who didn't think twice about taking in a 6-year-old cutie when he fell in love with her mother. Obviously, that cutie was me. When he married my mom in 1978, shortly after we moved from the valley to Redlands where I was raised, Leon was a second dad to me, but he always treated me like one of his own, without overstepping his boundaries, knowing and respecting I had a dad of my own. He was an outstanding role model, and I was able to navigate being a step-parent myself by learning from some of his Jedi ways, including how to be patient while teaching my almost 16, now 22-year-old stepson, Sonny, how to drive. Leon had a passion for exotic cars. It was something that he introduced to me, and I became infatuated with myself, particularly the Porsche. We loved the Porsches. I have fond memories of going to car shows at the convention centers every year, just walking around, browsing all the newest and latest models, and sitting in them pretending that one day finally arrived. Leon got himself an early 1980s 1924 Porsche. It was two-toned, dark brown on the bottom and beige on the top. One may think how hideous, but that thing was pretty sick, as the kids call it these days. At the time, he and I would take it out and just cruise together, just him and I. He would let me shift the gears, and we would go on hilly, windy, unforgettable adventures. This would have been shorter if I wasn't stalling. Leon also taught me the meaning of work ethic. At just 9 years old, I started working with him at Teresina Pharmacy. I greeted customers, answered phones, refilled the candy bars, ate the candy bars, restocked the non-prescription shelves, worked at the cash register, and eventually worked my way up counting prescription medications and labeling medication bottles. He taught me the tricks of the trade. Being a pharmacist, he loved what he did, and his customers loved him in return. Whoever knew Leon knew his love for ketchup, golf, and that he was a die-hard Steelers fan. In turn, I love ketchup, married a golf fanatic, and the Steelers just the same. Okay, maybe Jamie and Daniel love the Steelers a little more, but back in the 80s, I was proud to know every Steelers player by name and number, as I studied the 1979 plaque Leon had hanging up at the pharmacy. On October 12, 2015, my son Dylan, my brother Daniel, my sister Jamie, her husband Danny, and I got the chance of a lifetime and took Leon to San Diego to watch the Steelers play the Chargers for Monday Night Football. We experienced it all. We tailgated, we ate, we partied, and watched a great game with the Steelers win 24-20. Sorry, Danny. It was a perfect, most unforgettable day. I could go on and on with my fond memories, but I will just continue to hold those near and dear to my heart, as well as share them with all my loved ones as they come up, especially for Dylan, Sonny, and Leon's other grandsons, Jameson, Jackson, and JP. Seeing Leon in his final days was beyond painful and so surreal to watch for us as a family. But to be honest, It was his Alzheimer's dementia that took him away from us just 3 years ago, which was far too soon. Losing someone is never easy. Losing someone so wonderful and great the way we have twice is just unfair. Rest in eternal peace, Leon. I'm forever grateful for you and your unconditional love.
I just wrote a letter because I didn't even know how to start. Dear Daddy, I don't even know what to say. There's a gaping hole in my heart and it will never be filled. The bond we shared was truly special and one of a kind. We have so many great memories, from watching Rescue 911 and football together, to rescuing feeder fish at the pet store and driving around looking at houses. You taught me that you can never have enough sweatshirts and to make sure that there's always a backup bottle of ketchup in the pantry. You were easygoing and seldom complained, unless you were cold. We were two peas in a pod. I remember our family casino trips. You and Mom would give each of us kids $20 to gamble with. Okay, Mom would tell you to give us the $20. It was some unspoken understanding between us to meet in the food court for dessert, and later, when I was 21, at the bar for a beer while the others gambled. You never asked for much from us kids, only that we are happy, work hard, and contribute to society. You never expected perfection from us. You simply asked that we tried our best at anything we did. You always taught us the importance of being kind. I remember driving home from work with you, and one time I asked why you didn't charge extra for delivering prescriptions. Without skipping a beat, you said, "Why would I charge for doing the right thing?" That's just the kind of person you were. I will miss our morning walks, watching lightning storms with you, and enjoying football together. You were my #1 choice to watch a romantic comedy with, and I will miss rocking out to Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, and Carrie Underwood with you. Most importantly, I will miss your hugs, the sound of your voice, and the faint smell of aftershave, although the last time I saw you, it smelled like you poured out the whole bottle. I did. It was bad. I know you are in heaven smiling down on us, reunited with Papa Jimmy and Grandma Ann, playing poker with your buddies, and taking pebbles for long car rides. Say hi to Aunt Carol and Grams for us, and remember to check her not-so-secret candy drawer. That's where she keeps the good stuff. We promise to take care of Mom and Dexter for you, and I will raise my boys with the same morals and values you instilled in me. 14 years ago, we were told to say goodbye to you, and I am so grateful for the extra time we had with you. I wish we had more, but I take comfort in knowing that you are no longer lost or in pain. I wish I had spent more time with you and called more. I hope I made you proud. I love you, Daddy, and although I'm no longer a child, I will always be your little girl. With love, always and forever, Jay Makanga, Roo, Roo, Roo.
Thank everyone for coming today. I know how much we would appreciate everyone here. And I think in his own way he would have preferred the smaller group over many larger, much larger group that would have been under normal circumstances. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I haven't seen most of you in a while. For a few family members, last time I saw you was here. So I thought I'd start with a request. We've got to stop meeting like this. Let's meet anywhere else. For any other reason. Any other reason, please. My dad, Leon J. Darling, was a great man. And by the way, for those that don't know, the J in his middle name stands for J. I'm sorry to digress, but that's always something that's kind of entertaining. Dad was always a great parent, husband, friend, pharmacist, and member of his community. As a member of his community, he volunteered and donated regularly. He donated his blood for as long as I can remember. Never making a big deal of this, it was just something that he did. He collected the tabs from Coke cans and gave them back to the hospital. Dad and I both drank a fair amount of Coke, so there was always plenty to donate. He gave his time to his synagogue, to his Elks Lodge, to anyone who needed it, although mostly to my mother and her honeydew list. My dad's thoughts on work were that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, and I think he really lived by that. Dad repeatedly talked to me about how important this was and reinforced how doing so would impact my future life satisfaction. Of course, he was practicing what he preached because he absolutely did love what he did. As a pharmacist, he was a dedicated public servant who enjoyed both the science and the service sides of pharmacy. Although I must say, I don't think he enjoyed the business side of it nearly as much. I don't think that there was a day that went by that he dreaded going into work because it was so much more than a job to him. Being a pharmacist meant so much to him. I'm glad he got to practice his profession for as long as he did. Dad was a good and loyal friend. His best friends were primarily people from our synagogue, some of whom are here today. Being Jewish was important to him, not just as a religion, but as a community. And while Redlands didn't have a large Jewish community, the community that existed was close-knit, and almost all belonged to Congregation Emmanuel. The friendships he made there lasted for over 4 decades. I'm glad some of those friends and our rabbi are here today. Dad set an exemplary example as a husband. He treated my mom with love, never raising his voice, never making threats, always treating her well. And he lived by one important rule. Never disagree with your spouse in front of your children. Or at least don't do it in front of your spouse. Wait until she's gone before disagreeing with her and the children. In addition to telling me what to look for in a career, Dad also guided me to what to look for in a woman. He told me to find someone who challenged me intellectually because I got bored easily, because I didn't always love the small talk. As I look back at the advice he gave me towards work, towards marriage, and towards life, there were so many times that in retrospect I think he knew me better than I knew myself. And for those reasons and too many others to mention, he was a great father. I remember so many great moments with him, but a few do stand out. As a young child, he would arrive home from work to me cheering, "My daddy home, my daddy home." Then he would look at the TV, see that Star Wars was on for the 1,000th time, roll his eyes and simply say, "I can't believe it's on again." Many of my best memories of him involve going to baseball games, and we saw some great ones. But it's not the Dodgers or the Angels games that I remember or cherish most. It's the middle of the week night games at the San Bernardino Spirit that I think we both enjoyed. For him, I think he appreciated the shorter commute time to get there than to get to Dodger Stadium, and how much less it would cost him. You know, the entire affair costing what parking at Dodger Stadium would cost. On the weekends, we'd often took Jamie with us. And I remember how he just couldn't say no to her when we were there. A churro, nachos, cotton candy. Whatever she wanted, she got. It was both fun and funny for me, for Jamie, for Dad, Although maybe it was a little bit less funny for Mom when Jamie came home on a sugar high. The last time I saw Dad ended up being the first and only time he would be able to get to hold his grandson. I was able to tell Dad that his newest grandson was named after my father's dad, James. And despite his Alzheimer's and increasingly poor memory, when I asked Dad later in the conversation if he knew what the baby's name was, he said Jimmy, the nickname my grandfather was called. And I knew in that moment that my dad was not completely gone. There was still a sliver of him left, holding on to the important moments with all the strength he could muster. I'm so grateful that we had that moment. It will forever be a treasured memory. But I do feel terrible that my son, JP, will never have any memories of his own about either of his grandfathers. But we will make sure that he knows of his grandfathers and the great men that they were. I miss my dad already. I will continue to miss him forever. I love you, Dad. I'm so sorry.
Dearest Leon, I haven't been able to visit you for months because of the damn COVID virus. It's so wrong. It's so not fair. I counted each month we couldn't be together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 long months. We couldn't walk the grounds where you lived, to share a laugh, to share a meal. I couldn't touch you, I couldn't see you, and I couldn't be near you. Yes, we talked on the phone, we did FaceTime or Zoom, but that wasn't enough. I wanted more before you forgot who I was. The day I got the dreadful call from Summerford telling me you tested positive for COVID, I wasn't worried because there were so many false positives, and I was told you were asymptomatic. You were quarantined to your room, left with little to do, but I was assured they would bring things to you, especially your empty pharmacy bottles that you like to pretend to fill. 2 days after you were quarantined, you were taken to Redlands Hospital, struggling to breathe. Last Tuesday, you were rushed to the emergency room. And on Thursday, you were transferred to the COVID section, critically ill with sepsis, double pneumonia, and kidney failure. On Saturday, during a FaceTime visit with our children, my sister and Rabbi Cohn, you died alone in your hospital room physically, apart from your family, who loved you so dearly. You, Tracy, and I moved to Redlands in 1978, where you opened your first pharmacy. While Tracy came as a package deal when we married, you loved and treated her like your own. Along came Daniel, the son you longed to have. And 5 years later, your littlest treasure, Jamie, became your little princess. Our life was filled with love, laughter, tears, travels, family, fun, and so much more. You were funny, sarcastic, caring, filled with a dry sense of humor. You loved the rain, and I loved when you gave a great yee-haw as thunder would deafen our ears. You loved your Heinz ketchup, children, not ketchup. It had to be Heinz. It was only second to your love for the Steelers, and in third were the Dodgers. You are highly loved and respected by your customers as well as your friends, and left them with fond memories and love for you. There's a huge void in my heart, and I've missed you terribly these past 9 months, and will continue to for the rest of my days. Rest in peace, my beloved. I love you, and I hate COVID because it took you away from me too soon.
Thank you to all of you for those thoughts. If you turn in your booklets to pages 10 and 11, the words of the 15th Psalm. Adonai mi yagur b'ohalecha mi yishkon b'har kodeshecha. O God, who shall sojourn in your tabernacle? Who shall dwell on your holy mountain? They who walk uprightly and work righteousness, speak the truth in their heart and have no slander upon their tongue, nor do evil to their fellow, nor take up a reproach against their neighbor, whose eyes a vile person is despised, but they honor them that fear God. They that swear to their own hurt and change not, they that put not out their money on interest, nor take a bribe against the innocent, they that do these things shall never be moved. Now, in just a few hours, as most of you know, Jews will begin the observance and celebration of Hanukkah. And on Hanukkah, we commemorate the victory that took place more than 2,000 years ago when a small band of Jews, the Maccabees, took on the mighty Syrian Greeks, who were seeking to obliterate Judaism and have Jews embrace Hellenism. And we recount the victory by recalling the story of the hero of those days, Judah Maccabee. And we partake, as you know, in an act that's based on a legend that sought to relegate that military victory to a secondary status and instead commemorate what was considered to be a miracle: the rekindling of the eternal light in the ancient temple with the required pure olive oil, enough to just last for a day, but the legend says lasted for 8 days. And so each year we place candles on the menorah and eventually have 8 candles plus a servant candle burning brightly by the end of the holiday. In the middle part of the 20th century, the then well-known screenwriter Dor Sherry created a ritual that he suggested should be carried out in Jewish homes and make Hanukkah a time to reflect on some eternal values to which Jews and all humans should rededicate themselves. For Dor Sherry, each night was a time to think about those values. They were faith, freedom, courage, love, charity, integrity, knowledge, and peace. And over the years since he wrote them, other people have created similar rituals, perhaps emphasizing other values. So as we come together today to take leave of Leon, let me suggest that his life might well be seen as a menorah that sheds light upon us now and will do so in the days and years to come. In no particular order, one of the candles of the Leon Darling menorah is that of being a dad and a grandpa, and we've already heard what that really involved. To Leon, it didn't matter one bit that one of his children may not have been his biologically. Tracy, Jamie, and Daniel were his 3 kids. He loved you, supported you, maybe even at times perturbed you, respected you, and encouraged you. While there was much more that Leon should have been able to do to not just be a dad, but a grandfather, the light of being a great dad will shine brightly in that new generation. And though his relationship to Rebecca was one that was clouded by tension, Leon shared with me and others his concern for her well-being and hoped for some sort of reconciliation. A second candle on Leon's living menorah was, of course, that of being a husband. Nancy and Leon both had marriages that failed, and when they found one another, it enabled them to create new chapters of their lives. And I would say that they really complemented each other in so many ways. And like any marriage, it had its ups and downs. There were illnesses that were devastating and couldn't help but preoccupy him. There were other stresses and strains, but when all is said and done, yours was a marriage that found you sharing much more than what separated you, a true partnership that filled both of you with joy and hope. And both of you benefited from being open to starting anew after a couple of years of separation. The third candle on the Leon Darling menorah was that of family from which he came. He was a caring brother, caring brother to his sister and brother, a loving son and grandson. And family meant much to Leon. And that did not require everyone to live in the same place. The bonds that tied them together were lasting. The fourth that you've already heard about too was Leon's chosen profession. I think it was something that must have been part of his DNA, a family tradition for at least two, if not more, generations before him. Leon was totally devoted to his profession as a pharmacist. And as the obituary in today's paper said, he was a workaholic. He prospered from his work as a pharmacist, but more importantly, I know that he delighted in being of service to others, in guiding them as they sought better health. He was respected and trusted, didn't cut corners, constantly learning about new drugs and medications, and became an expert. And his monitoring of the conditions of his clients was absolutely crucial to their well-being. A fifth candle on the Leon Darling menorah was his basic outlook on life. He loved life. He enjoyed life. He didn't aspire to be immensely wealthy. He enjoyed having fun, whether it was at the poker table or the golf course. I didn't know about his love of classic cars. He had a dry sense of humor, that I do know. And as Nancy reminded me, at times he could be sarcastic. He cherished life. And so another candle on the Darling menorah, the Leon Darling menorah, is one that we would obviously call friendship. He cultivated friendships, even in his unassuming, shyful way, and he enjoyed good camaraderie. He was loyal to his friends. In many ways, Leon lived out the words of someone who wrote about the art of friendship by saying, to be a friend, a person should strive to lift people up, not cast them down, to encourage, not discourage, to set an example that will be an inspiration to others, to be sensitively responsive to the dreams and aims of others, and show appreciation for the contributions others make to the enrichment of life. And to Leon, friendship also meant embracing Nancy's friend. seventh candle could well be thought of as community. Leon felt himself to be part of a community that included being part of our congregation. He took being part of a community seriously. He shared his resources as much as possible. He was a proud American citizen. But most of all, he knew that it was his responsibility to bring pride to his community, just as it was his responsibility to be proud of his community. And the eighth candle could certainly be that of something that marked him, and that was dignity. And I don't mean by that some kind of straight-laced behavior, but assaulted by a disease that still puzzles us, and that we hope someday we'll be able to understand and conquer. I know that Leon did not indulge in self-pity. Surely there are other candles that any of you might think of when you think of Leon, but I think we can all agree that when one puts those all together, we have a brightly shining menorah. But you know that every menorah also has a ninth candle, the shamus, the servant candle. And I'd like to think that Leon's ninth candle was that he was a hero. Now you may recall that a few moments ago when I talked about our observance of Hanukkah, something that most of you know about, I mentioned that the hero of the Hanukkah story is Judah the Maccabee. And over the course of years, there have been many attempts to define a true hero, but today I want to share with you one special understanding of who a real hero really is. And I do so because, as you'll see in a few moments, it has to do with Leon's coming from Pittsburgh and being a Steelers fan. A few years ago, the author Stephen Dubner wrote a book called Confessions of a Hero Worshipper. And in that book, he tells of his search for a long-forgotten childhood hero. And he tells of what he calls his recurrent dream. The dream is one that started when he was a youngster. A dream of someone he had never met, but who came to mean more for him than any man, dog, or deity. His hero was a football player. And who was the football player that kept coming to him in his dream? It was someone whom Leon knew about quite well. Some of you will know the name when I mention it. Franco Harris. Franco Harris was drafted in 1972 by the Pittsburgh Steelers after having played for Penn State. He was 6'2", 225 pounds, but hardly what one could call a bruiser. He had an unorthodox running style, darting and then cutting back, never letting tacklers get an angle on him. And on the back of Franco Harris, the Steelers won 9 of their last 10 games in 1972. Franco had almost single-handedly transformed the Steelers from a losing team to a winning team, and Pittsburgh was going wild. And I guess even in not being in Pittsburgh, Leon was going wild. In a game against the Oakland Raiders, Franco Harris did something that gained him a new title, and this author Dubner describes in these words. The Steelers were backed into their final corner, 4th down, 60 yards from the end zone, 22 seconds left. Terry Bradshaw called a play, the 66 circle option. Harris was upset. In the 66 circle option, Harris did nothing more than hang around in the backfield and block for Bradshaw. It seemed a lousy, uneventful way to end his magical rookie season. The Steelers broke their huddle. Bradshaw took the snap. He was immediately under assault. And Franco Harris, whose distaste for physical contact included blocking, wasn't much help. Bradshaw frantically dodged one Raiders rusher, then another. And just as he was about to be tackled, Bradshaw blindly unleashed a bullet pass. Dubner says this: the ball zipped downfield where it, one Steeler and one Raider, met with great force. Neither man, however, came close to catching the ball. It ricocheted free, seemingly destined to land on the turf and kill the Steelers' season. But instead of falling to the ground, the ball somehow remained aloft and traveled in a wobbly arc back toward the line of scrimmage, and suddenly Franco Harris arrived at full gallop, cradling his hands as if to rescue a baby tossed from a burning tenement, caught the ball at his shoe tops, and never losing stride headed for the end zone, shoulders rising and falling in grand fashion, arms and legs pumping fluidly. The Raiders were by now realizing that Franco had caught the ball out of the air. They pursued him, 4 of them, and then 3. Franco was flat outrunning them, 2 Raiders, and then the last one, whom he stiff-armed in a tightrope sprint. His toes just inches from the sideline, he crossed the goal line. And reporters and fans considered this to be the single greatest play in NFL history. By midnight, it had been given a name: the Immaculate Reception. Well, Dubner, totally mesmerized by Harris, began to dream about him. He describes the dream, but eventually, without sharing all of it, you can go back and read that in Dubner's book. It was a recurring dream that he and Franco Harris played football outside of his home. And Dubner kept dreaming the dream of his hero, and eventually, as an adult, he made contact with Harris and he wrote a biography of him. He describes his many attempts to sit down with him. In the last 4 sentences of that book about a hero worshiper, he says something that I particularly want to share with you. And his conclusion, he put it in the context of his hopes for his own 2 children. What were his hopes for them? May they find people to love, admire, perhaps even emulate. May they discover ideas that are worth living for. May they do well unto others. And this I hope above all, may they be their own heroes. Leon Darling, our hero, whom we sadly take leave of today, was his own hero. And he was our hero. And he will remain that forever and ever. With that, let me ask you to rise for the traditional memorial prayer you find in your booklets on page 20. El mole rachamim shofei v'amramim hamsei minufanefana tachat kanapei ashachina v'ma'alotim kedoshim utorim kezohar harafi alas yamim v'ani shepat Lazer ben Yisrael she'alach li'olamo bal harachamim yaskirehu b'seiter knofov le'olamim b'tzror b'tzrachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato Yanuach v'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar amen. O God, who art full of compassion and who dwellest on high, grant everlasting peace beneath the sheltering wings of your presence, among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the stars, to the soul of our dear Leon J. Darling, who has gone to his eternal home. Lord of mercy, bring him under the cover of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bonds of everlasting life. Be thou his portion, and may his rest now be peace. With that, we turn to the words of the Kaddish on page 22 and 23. Words that speak not of death, but rather of life. For we are here today not only to mourn and be sad, but to affirm life. Try to preserve in our lives some of those values, those lights that distinguished Leon Darling. I would ask you to say with me, Yit Gadal v'Yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. V'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chaye chon v'yomei chon. V'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei rabam v'arach. Le'alam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Yitromam, Yitnaseh. Yitadar, Yitaleb, Yitalal, Shemei, Dekudasha, Brichu. Eila min kol birchata v'shirata, Tishbachata v'nechamata, Damiran v'alma v'imramein, Hei shlama rabba min shmaya, V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imramein, Oseh shalom bimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, Imru Amen. The departed, we have come to pay tribute to, has entered into the peace of eternal life. But he will still live here on earth. Many acts of goodness he performed, and in the hearts of all of us, and so many others, who will continue to cherish his memory. So, in keeping with Jewish tradition, we'll cut the ribbons that each of you are wearing as an outward sign of our grief and our mourning, and ask you to say with me these words, repeat them after me. Baruch, Atah, Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech, Ha'olam, Dayan, Ha'emet. Blessed be God, who is the judge of truth, for which we say, Amen. For those of you who would like to place some dirt on the casket, you can do that. Come with me if you feel like it.
Wait, no, putting the family, you can go on both sides simultaneously.
We've got the roses over here, honey.
There we go. I'll put one in for Grandpa.
Now this does conclude the service. As you know, there will be, as I mentioned, a Shiva Minyan at 2 o'clock on Sunday, and you will all be given information on how to access that, and hope you will join us as long as well as many others.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I know we did. I apologize for that. Okay, so next up.
If you want to throw that on there, is that it?
Catch up.
I love you, sweetheart. I'm always gonna miss you.
Mom, it's really heavy. Another one?
But we love him.
Not yet. We're not ready for 3 this year. Please. Another one? Another one? Or done?
Should put one Dylan.
Dylan, your turn. When you do the shovel,
Put a little dirt in there.
you have to put it
Okay.
back. I'll do one.
You just put a little dirt in there and then stick it back in there.
Put
it
a
on,
Dutch
please.
thing in there. You don't know how to put a thing of dirt? No, it's hard.
Just do it lightly, Dylan. Don't throw it in there. Just let it.
Yeah,
Let
you
it
throw it in. As many as you want. Okay. Just one? You think there's
Nancy's gonna put some pebbles from Jerusalem in there.
okay, well, that was actually mine. I think other picture.
No, those are yours. I already put mine in.
What are those, Rabbi?
Pebbles from Jerusalem.
Oh, okay. Aw. Oh, wow, that was way in there,
I'm gonna run along, but I will, Nancy, I will see you on Sunday. Okay? Nancy?
Mom,
Nancy?
Rabbi's leaving.
I'm gonna see you on Sunday. Okay?
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Rabbi, thank you so much. It was lovely.
You all said was very, very important. It was
Thank you very much.
good. I should have taken him for a ride in my class.
Yeah, you should have.
I have a 65 Buick convertible.
Oh, really? Wow, he would have loved that. I think we should get a discount for this.
You gotta laugh out of it. You gotta chuckle out of that.
Oh. I should never for this.
I put a scoop really on Stinky.
Oh, you? We done recording? Nope.
No, it's still going.
Are you done? Considering that we're going through. Yeah. Oh, I love that. He did that. That's rad. He did the ketchup. That's amazing.
Sucks.
Got through in there? Did you see what's got through in there? The bottle of Heinz ketchup.
I wondered what that was. God love him.
I zoomed in on it.
God love him.
Oh, that's how I love ketchup.
Now I can see it. Is that funny?
Right?
Oh,
Okay. Take care.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.
And then finally she started talking about like,
Here.
I was like, oh